Hello, all. I hope this message doesn't find you in a pickle with all of your work this week. Do you get it? Because I'm a pickle. Do you get it? Do you understand? I hope. Okay. All right. Moving on. All right. So it is time for our midweek check-in for week 2. So very simply, what I'm going to do for this video is I'm going to show you some excellent examples of work from last week to encourage you how to write for these assignments, just a reminder about due dates, and then some encouragement with your project. But that's it. We'll keep it nice and simple. For the most part, all the submissions were excellent last week. They were really, really good, really high grades. If you did not get any comments from me, that just means that I thought you were doing really, really well, that you were right on track. If you did get some comments from me, they're all constructive, so just use those to kind of build your writing process and improve your grades. Okay? But overall, really, really good. All right, so here I'm going to show you some submissions. Make sure I get the right one. I think is it. Some submissions that I thought were awesome. Okay, here we go. Are you ready? The film Pride and Prejudice, and I love that this student italicized Pride and Prejudice, which is what you're supposed to do with longer works like films or novels. The film Pride and Prejudice demonstrates the core ideas of irrational and romantic love that characterizes the Romantic era. Yep! That is so good. There's a really crystal clear argument that they're making about the Romantic era and what Pride and Prejudice does. A lot of you had really generic topic sentences or thesis statements there, and you'd be like, the film Pride and Prejudice has lots of cool Romantic era stuff. Yeah, it does. But what is it? So always remember that specifics stimulate and generalities bore. So stimulate your readers by giving specifics. In fact, the film demonstrates almost every aspect of romanticism: rebellion, sensuality, emotion, heroism, and nature. The heroine, Elizabeth Bennet, is a romantic icon. She loves the natural world and believes that marriage is about emotion and romance and truly loving somebody for who they are, not for their blood status or their wealth. These views are very different than those around her, especially her mother and father and Lady Catherine. We see this when Elizabeth rejected the proposal of Mr. Collins, the heir to her estate home, even though their marriage would be a sensible connection between their families. She simply does not love him, and that is more important to her than all the rational reasons she should marry him. Excellent. Very good. So we've got a really clear example of romanticism there and also how it's functioning within the culture. And it's specific. I can see those scenes and images within my mind. Well done. Okay, next sentence, romanticism was also an era heavy with poetry. This is one sentence that I wasn't a huge fan of just because it feels so generic. I don't know if you can hear that, but nothing is really accomplished here other than just telling us there was lots of poetry in the Romantic era. Well, there's lots of poetry in pretty much any era, right? So make that more specific. Make that more specific and somehow tie it with the paragraph before it. So next sentence. Romantics believe that romantic poetry should be more conversational than its predecessors, more connected and grounded than flowery and ornate. Romantic poets concern their poems with love and beauty and rebellion against industrialism and the cruelties of modern society. Yes, can you make that more specific? What are you talking about there? Can you show me examples? You're right on with your ideas, but texture it a little bit with real-world examples. Lord Byron's famous poem, She Walks in Beauty, displays these ideas beautifully. The poem describes a woman by comparing her to the beauty of nature, with the lines, she walks in beauty like the night of cloudless climes and starry skies, comparing her to the beauty of nighttime. Another poem, this time by Percy Shelley, demonstrates the more rebellious side of romanticism. The poem Ozymandias is a poem about rejecting authority and tyranny in the form of a traveler finding the wasted ruins of a great statue of the Egyptian pharaoh Ozymandias, whose inscription reads, "My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look at my works, ye mighty, and despair." God, I love that line. However, nothing but the legs and face of the statue remains. Shelley's dislike of authority is even more profound with the words, "Half sunk a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command clearly describe the king as a wicked, cold ruler with no room for sympathy from the viewer." And listen to this analysis. I love this part. The values and ideas these texts show are all rooted in social rebellion against the industrialization and modernization of the era. The Romantics lived in a time where humanity was drifting away from the natural world and embracing cold logic and reason. And the Romantics despised that. They believed in the value of emotion, irrationality, and illogicality, and rejected the ideas of the Enlightenment era. Great. That's awesome. I don't even know if illogicality is a word, but dadgummit, it sounds sexy, so I'm on board. Finally, I will discuss my opinion and conclusion of the Romantic era. Don't do that. Just delete that sentence. You don't need to tell me what you're going to do. Just do it. Just do it. Your writing is so beautiful here. You don't need this. That feels a little bit kind of like high schoolish. Like, in this paper I will discuss. Just get rid of it. In short, the Romantics were a beautiful blend. Like, start right there. Do you see how strong that sentence sounds? Just start it with that. In short, the Romantics were a beautiful blend of rebellion and love that fought against society not with weapons but with words and ideas. It makes perfect sense that an era like the Enlightenment that focused on logic and reason would have such a large backlash from people who believe in the exact opposite. I love the ideas of beauty and romance, the love of nature, individualism, the romanticism of ancient ruins, and Byronic heroes. In a way, Romanticism has permeated our modern society today. We can see it in the hippie movement, the environmental movement, the rising popularity of aesthetic genres like cottagecore. I don't know what that is, but I'm on board. It sounds cool. It sounds like metal, but in like log cabins or something. I don't know. An aesthetic that focuses on nature, simple living, and romanticizing living out of the country. Well done. And even ideas like individuality and rejecting the norm. It's a movement that inspires me, and I love everything it stands for. Excellent conclusion. And I love the specifics with the hippie movement, environmental movement, and cottagecore. That's awesome. Great, great, great specifics there. I'll make sure to attach this in the email so you can all see it and look over it and help it and use it to help inform your submission for this week over the next unit. Okay, so that was the original submission that I really liked. Here is the comment. It's really simple, but I really liked it too. I agree with you, and I really like how you said that when one does the same as everyone else, the meaning and principle behind being an individual is lost. So great quote right there, but also as the reader, you might be a little bit confused with what's happening. So what I would do is I would be specific when you say, I agree with you in your argument that X. So try to do that. The philosophy set by Romanticism encourages one to be true to themselves, and I believe this is important for people to be unique and create their own ideas and happiness. Excellent analysis there, but tell me why. Why do you think that? Why do you think that's important? Give me your own ideas here. The rebellious idea brought with this is just a different opinion of the majority of society, and I think that different perspectives are necessary in a community so that everyone can be open-minded to new possibilities that may improve the world. I also believe that this makes a society stronger with unity and acceptance. So what this student does really well is they have really great ideas, but I want to see that played out with specifics. So can you give me real-world examples of what you're talking about when you mention different perspectives, or what you mean when you say a society stronger with unity and acceptance? Be specific there and let me know what you're talking about. It textures your writing and it engages your readers with more specifics. Okay? So once again, I'll attach both those in the email that I'm about to send out to all of you. Those were great, great, great writings this week. One thing I want to leave you with in the midst of all of this wild things that are happening in the news lately with the protests and police violence, things like that, there's this poem that I love. It's called Harlem by Langston Hughes. And often I think, if you're like me, I can get caught up way too much in the news, in reading stories from specific journalism sources, or you can get lost in the comments section of social media. And I love that poetry often has the ability to transcend those things, to get us to a spot where it activates what's really happening in our hearts instead of just our minds. And that's what this poem does for me. So Langston Hughes was a black poet who was writing in the midst of the Harlem Renaissance, and especially during the Civil Rights Movement, he enjoyed a lot of prolific readership. So I hope you enjoyed this poem, and I hope it helps you move past just the headlines to really kind of take into account things that are happening in our country. So Harlem by Langston Hughes. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load. Or does it explode? So hopefully this poem will find you in a place where you can process and think about everything that's been happening in our world in a way that's a little more complex than just reading news. You all are awesome. I was so proud of the work that you all submitted last week. So follow suit, read those comments that I gave you, look at these examples that I'm about to send to you, and strive to do your best. We're already almost through with week 2, and then we've only got 2 more weeks and some change. You're all doing really well. Submit everything by 11:59 p.m. on Sunday night. Also make sure that you're reading your novel. As crazy as it may sound, you should be about halfway through, or maybe even a little bit more, so you're affording yourself some more time to finish everything up, okay? Get to reading that novel, get to writing your submissions, and I will send you all a new video on Monday.